Dawn Weatherwax Sports Nutrition to Go, Dawn Weatherwax's Sports Nutrition Academy and Food for Speed podcast. I can't tell you how many times people ask, what should I eat on a day of competition?
What?
So, what? Here we go. We need to start off with hydration. We need 16 to 32 ounces of fluid.
That much?
That much. It can come from 32 ounces of water, but we can also use it from our milk. So what do we got? We're going to do oatmeal. For your carbohydrates, we have our oatmeal. Then
I never knew.
Yeah. For our protein, we have our Fairlife milk, 12 to 16 ounces. For our more carbs and fruit, we use unsweetened applesauce to sweeten it to make it yummy without the added sugar. And we use some awesome cinnamon to help with the flavor and zest. And if you feel like you need just a little bit of sweetness, honey is a good sweetener. That's natural. And then don't forget the healthy fat, because that provides our energy and sustainability.
So is what you're basically saying you all need something of each?
Yep, we need a protein, we need a carbohydrate, and we need healthy fats. And then to kick it all off, we need to make sure we have enough sodium. We want 500 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium.
Wow.
To make sure we get the water into the muscle cell to keep us hydrated. 1/4 of a teaspoon is 500 milligrams. You could go that route.
Wow.
This food here has about 500 milligrams of sodium in it already. Or if you want to do something more simplistic, you could do half of an element and put it in the water. That's how you start your morning competition.
Wow. Thanks.
Swim meet starts around 8 or 9 a.m. to about 12 to 1 p.m. for the first half of the session. We always start with hydration first, because if we're 1% dehydrated, performance will decline up to 15%, and that includes fluid and salt. We need 4 to 10 ounces of fluid an hour, and we can get our sodium through food, through salt, through product, and this one I'm going to show you through some liquid IV that you can get your sodium. Then we need a little bit of carbs. We can take just the apple, and the trick is cut it. Bring a plastic knife or a regular knife and trim it as you go, and it's much easier to eat. Or if that's just too much, you can use applesauce. Then we got some consistent energy with our healthy fat with peanut butter.
But what if I'm allergic to peanut butter?
Yeah, well, you can do almond butter, cashew butter, soy butter, and sunflower butter.
So basically just something that's butter?
You got it, something that's creamy, that digests easily and light on the stomach. So we're like, ooh, I can do this and swim fast. And then we're ready to go to lunch. Okay, now what do we do for lunch? We have to break it down into things. We're always going to start with hydration, 16 to 32 ounces of fluid, and we need enough sodium. For my lunch, I like 500 to 1,000 milligrams of salt. That is definitely coming from these food choices. Now, our carb is going to come from our sourdough bread, and it's going to come from our oranges. The bread provides our B vitamins, and the fruit helps us with inflammation, immune system, and keeping us healthy and strong. Next is we're going to use a little bit of cheese and our boar's head meat to get that protein to maximize that recovery and repair of those muscles. And the trick with more salt is the dill pickles. Yummy, yummy. If you don't like them, we got to figure out another way to get sodium in the meal. And then for healthy fats, we have our nice little trail mix with some dried fruit. We don't need the chocolate nuggets here, folks, or some M&Ms. Leave those for later. You work too hard to not glide through the water awful fast. So again, a carb, healthy fat, a protein, hydration, and some sodium, and you're on your way. Okay, now getting ready for the second half of a swim day between 2 and 4 p.m., we are going to start working on 4 to 10 ounces of fluid, because that helps us, our brain and us, to be very fast with our salt. And I am also going to use some liquid IV element, or you can choose a little bit of sodium. 1/4 of a teaspoon, remember, is roughly 500 milligrams of sodium to bring the water into the muscle cell. We need some carbohydrates to keep that energy going in the muscles and to keep that energy up. So we're going to do an apple, and we're going to do half of a Chobani yogurt for our protein, and we're going to do 1 to 2 tablespoons of peanut butter.
But what if I'm allergic to peanut butter?
Then you could do nut butter, you could do soy butter, you can do seed butter in place of that. Then we're going to just repeat this process roughly between 5 and 7 p.m. again. And if you feel like you need more, you can just add more volume to all of this, and that's how you get ready and fuel for an afternoon swim meet. All right, now we have dinner time, and we need to break it down. Again, we need our hydration, 16 to 32 ounces of fluid and 500 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium, so we replenish and get ready for the next day. We have our pasta for our carbohydrates to refuel those muscles so they feel good and energized. We have our protein, and I'm using ground chicken for our spaghetti, or you could do organic chicken breast and put that in the marinara sauce. Protein for amino acids and to recover and repair for that from what we just did. And then you can make your own, or this is simply 8 ingredients: tomato puree, coarse ground tomatoes pureed, roasted garlic, garlic, olive oil, and salt. That's all that's in there, nothing else. That is also our vegetable. We have our nice little salad kit that gives us our roughage, our fiber, our nutrients to reduce inflammation and repair, and olive oil, 1 to 2 tablespoons in the marinara sauce, because that increases the nutrients and also decreases inflammation. And this is an easy and awesome meal for an evening competition. All right, now we're just finishing off the night with something a little bit of a treat, but also just to get our muscles and our body ready for the next day. A little bit of fluid. We don't need a lot because we don't need to be waking up in the middle of the night, but just a little bit of fluid. If we need a little bit of salt, you could use Quace ID. That is another option. There is some sodium in these products. For our protein, for muscle recovery and repair, I got the yogurt. You can put 2 tablespoons of tart cherry concentrate, yum yum, and some dried cherries and some other fruit. I just showed you freeze dried because it's simple, but always can use fresh or frozen. And some chia seeds for the healthy fats. Remember, we want our lean protein to recover and repair. We want our healthy fats to decrease inflammation and have consistent energy. We need our fruits and carbohydrates to help provide that fuel back into the muscle so we have tons of energy. Balance is the key. Something light and fit before you go to bed.